lay that out a little bit. Like what does the arc look like? You've got first naivete, critical examination. Like what are the components and what's the gist of it? I mean, what's this clarifying for you?
Well, it's one of those things that I'm sure it was very simple for Ricoeur when he laid this out in the 70s as he was really working on hermeneutics. That there, I think it's first descriptive and then prescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of what Ricoeur is part of that tradition of where hermeneutics, in a way, grew out of the wedding of the hermeneutical tradition before that in the phenomenological tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So in phenomenology, you just describe what happens.
Yeah.
And in a sense, this happens for a lot of people. You have a first naivete, you examine it, and then you come back to have a third moment where you make a judgment about it. You say, here's my conclusion and here's what I'm going to do with it. And he liked to call that appropriation, which I like because it has this very practical side. Okay, the end of it is appropriation, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
action. At the same time, as I just mentioned, not everybody goes through all of that. So in that sense, it's not always descriptive. It's prescriptive, that you should go through these stages, and maybe beyond even what he intended or followed up. He threw that out there, and I've just found it so illuminating in theological education and helpful, especially to students and myself, because there is this first understanding that people have, they grow up with. And often it's in seminary, or maybe if they're a religion major in college or go to religious college and they have required Bible classes and other religion classes, then you're thrust into this critical examination.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be very disconcerting, very difficult.
He calls it the desert of criticism, right?
Yeah, and that's the danger. And you see that, I'm sure you have, in theological education. They call it deconstruction.
Right.
It's the popular term, and it can be devastating. It can be destructive. That people are exposed to all these ideas, and you read 10 commentaries on something, and they have different ideas. And what am I supposed to believe? I still get that question all the time. Well, what do we believe, and what is the answer?
Right.
And in our settings, many their first naivete, the culture they're brought up with, the pre-understanding they bring to all this is they've been taught there is one answer.
Exactly.
And it's a very dogmatic answer.
The question itself reveals something about the hermeneutics at work.
Yeah,
right.
And so it's even doubly shocking, you might say, even for anybody who's raised to say, oh yeah, there are questions and difficulties. It can still be very difficult.